Welcome to this explainer. You know, when we watch a soccer match, it usually looks like this spontaneous, chaotic burst of athleticism, right? Just 22 players out there improvising their way to glory. But beneath the surface of the so-called beautiful game, it's actually a deeply calculated strategic chess match. Today, we're going to uncover the hidden architecture of soccer tactics. We're taking a journey from the gritty defensive trenches of the 1930s all the way to the cutting-edge mathematical data models of today.
Okay, so here's our roadmap. First, inventing the doorbolt defense. Second, the great Inter Milan. Third, total football breaks the lock. Fourth, modern tactics and legacy. And finally, the data of winning. Let's just dive right in.
Section 1. Inventing the doorbolt defense. We're starting with the birth of a paradigm that literally changed sports history. And it wasn't born out of a desire to play flashy, entertaining football, but out of pure, pragmatic necessity to stop physically superior opponents.
Enter the concept of Catenaccio. It's an Italian term that translates directly to door bolts or padlock. Now, this evolved from Austrian coach Karl Rappon's 1930s Swiss Verrou system, and it was designed with one ultimate goal in mind: survive and conquer. Rappon realized pretty quickly that if his team couldn't match the physical or technical prowess of their opponents, well, they could just outsmart them by dropping deep, absorbing the pressure, and securely locking the door.
When you break down how this actually works, it's fascinating because these interlocking roles ensure an extra man advantage at all times. It effectively places a literal padlock on the penalty box. You've got this rigid 5-3-2 low block formation where defenders are given strict man-to-man marking duties, basically shadowing specific attackers everywhere they went. But the absolute genius of it was the introduction of the Libero, or the sweeper. This player roamed freely behind the defensive line, acting as the ultimate insurance policy to intercept loose balls. And when possession was regained, the team wouldn't slowly build up play. No way. They would launch lightning-fast vertical counterattacks. They were turning pure defensive solidity into opportunistic scoring.
Moving to Section 2, the Great Inter Milan. Because while this system started in Switzerland, Catenaccio was truly perfected and weaponized in Italy during the 1960s. To understand how wild this is, you have to look at how Inter Milan was founded. In 1908, Giorgio Muggiani had this highly poetic vision of global inclusion. He said, "It shall be called international because we are brothers of the world." It's a beautiful sentiment, right? But the deep irony here is that while they were founded on the idea of letting the world in, on the pitch, they became universally famous for mercilessly shutting the world out.
That fearsome reputation was totally cemented during Inter Milan's golden eras. In the 1960s, under the visionary coach Helenio Herrera, the famous Grande Enter squad just perfected the system. With Armando Pichi flawlessly executing that libero role we talked about, they conceded an astonishing 29 goals in 34 league matches. I mean, that is insane. They absolutely dominated Europe, winning back-to-back European Cups. And that legacy of defensive mastery stuck around. In 1989, Giovanni Trapattoni captured a Serie A championship with an evolved version. And then jump to 2010, Jose Mourinho famously used a modern interpretation of this exact defensive solidity to absorb immense pressure and secure a historic treble.
All right, Section 3, total football breaks the lock. As with all great strategies in sports, no system goes unchallenged forever. A formidable nemesis eventually emerged to challenge the throne.
The 1970s brought what was essentially pure tactical warfare. On one side, you had Catenaccio, static, rigid, relying on man-marking and pragmatic containment. And on the other side, the revolutionary total football, pioneered by Rinus Michels and Johan Cruyff at Ajax. Total football was all about constant, fluid movement and positional rotation. Literally any outfield player could take over the role of any other player. This high tempo and sheer unpredictability completely dismantled the static Italian defense. In the 1972 European Cup final, Ajax's fluidity pulled those rigid Italian markers entirely out of position, and they secured a 2-0 victory over Inter Milan. The lock had officially been broken.
And man, off the pitch, this tactical battle became highly polarizing. The English and Dutch media heavily criticized Catenaccio. They derided it as cynical anti-football that prioritized survival over spectacle. But conversely, Italians celebrated the tactic. To them, it was a proud symbol of gritty working-class resilience. It was a reflection of a nation rebuilding from post-war economic hardship, using sheer collective determination. Now, we aren't taking sides here, but it is just fascinating to see how a defensive formation so perfectly mirrored post-war societal values and cultural divides. Which brings us to Section 4, Modern Tactics and Legacy. Beaten, sure, but certainly not broken. The Italian padlock was forced to evolve to survive the modern era.
Coaches quickly realized they couldn't just stand still. First came the zona mista, spearheaded by tacticians like Trapattoni. This cleverly blended the old, rigid man-marking with flexible zonal coverage, which allowed the defense to actually adapt to moving attackers. Then came modern low-block hybrids, dropping deep to absorb pressure before launching highly calculated counterattacks. And more recently, we've seen Chalismo. Diego Simeone's brilliant reinterpretation at Atletico Madrid utilizes that deep, organized backline, but adds intense, modern pressing triggers. It just proves that supreme defensive discipline never truly goes out of style. Actually, to put this into perspective, I want you to consider this astonishing number. 15. 15. That is the record low number of goals conceded by Jose Mourinho's Chelsea over an entire 38-game Premier League season in 2004-2005. By employing a disciplined system that quickly transitioned into a low block the second they lost possession, Mourinho was utilizing a direct modern descendant of Catenaccio. This whole philosophy of denying space and countering efficiently, it remains a devastatingly effective path to victory.
Okay, Section 5, the data of winning. For decades, we really just relied on the eye test to tell us these tactics worked. But now we have the hard statistical science to prove it. A massive, groundbreaking 2025 study published on Archive finally pulled back the curtain. Researchers analyzed over 150,000 hand-coded events derived from raw, unedited Serie A commentary. Using these super advanced statistical models, they mathematically measured the exact impact of coaching decisions, referee actions, and environmental pressures. For the first time, they were able to quantify exactly what tactical decisions are worth, stripping away the mystery of the game. The numbers on match outcomes are just wild. Playing on your home turf provides a massive baseline advantage. We're talking home wins almost 47% of the time, compared to away wins at just 27%. The research shows that this home advantage literally acts as a measurable psychological weight on the opposition, and it even subtly influences referee decisions. It creates conditions that amplify a home team's capacity to exert dominance from the very first whistle. But it's not just about where you play, it's about what the coach does with that environment. The math confirms it. Coaches act as resource allocators. The study proved that aggressive opening tactics consistently boost home performance. Furthermore, real-time coaching scheme adjustments dynamically and objectively alter the final goal difference. The data also highlighted that high-intensity offensive actions like nuanced crosses or corners can ironically increase your vulnerability to counterattacks if they aren't managed correctly. Ultimately, specific in-game tactical adjustments dictate the probabilities of winning and losing, completely independent of just raw player talent. So, from Karl Rappin's 1930s Varus system to the advanced statistical models we have today, the pursuit of victory has always been a strategic arms race. We've seen how the doorbolt defense shaped history, how it was fundamentally challenged, and how data now proves the undeniable impact of a coach's tactical blueprint. So, as you sit down to watch the next big match, I want you to ask yourself, are you just watching players improvise on the grass, or are they simply executing a century-old mathematical equation? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the game behind the game.